Once again, you're most welcome to the Youth Roundtable Show, another edition of 2025. Specifically in this, we are looking at the internal party democracies ahead of 2026. A lot of political parties have started on their internal elections to get flag bearers, to get candidates, to get leadership for their structures ahead of the forthcoming election. With me is a panel of gentlemen and ladies. I'll begin my introductions from the extreme of my left. That is His Excellency Nkwanga Micheal, who has been with us on the show before. He's a guild president at the Uganda Institute of Communication and Technology. He has been our member here at the Youth Roundtable, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Thank you for having me.
Well, we always appreciate your response to our invitations. Closest from my brother is Honorable Alupo Masi. Honorable Alupo Masi is the Treasurer General at the Forum for Democratic Change Youth League. She's also eyeing a very big seat in this country to liberate this country from a lot of issues. So you're most welcome to the show, my sister.
Thank you so much, my brother Ivan. And I'm really privileged to be here.
Wow. It is a pleasure. As you move towards my right from the Honorable Masi is the Honorable Ivan Tsebeni. Ivan Tsebeni also doubles as a journalist. Mostly it is referred to both writer and field journalist who looks around the youth politics, who is also an aspiring member in the local government at Namisindwa district, who is also a first-time guest to our show, the Youth Roundtable, and we want to take this juncture to welcome him to the show. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother Ivan, and I'm glad to be here. To our viewers, I know a lot is going to be discussed, and keep in.
Closest to me is the Honorable Hilary Asiimwe, is the 32nd Secretary. 32nd?
Yeah.
Uganda National Student Secretary for Women Affairs. She's a leader in Nakasongola district, as per now, in the new leaders in the district under the National Resistance Movement. She's also a panelist on the show who has been with us before. You are most welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
And I will begin with you in that direction. Today we are unlocking the youth take on issues of the various internal party elections ongoing ahead of the 2026 elections. The Political Organization Act, Political Parties and Organizations Act gives a structure or a framework of how parties are supposed to operate. Also, the multi-party dispensation system we are into gives parties the right to have a leadership structure that should also organize internal elections to say that they get candidates to nominate or to represent them in the general elections. First of all, I think to all our panelists, I'm going to take your take. How do you assess or what, before I come to lessons, the pros and cons you may have picked, what is your general overview of the current party primaries? As an NRM member, I would like you to give me some information from your party.
I want to welcome everyone who participated in the elections that were ongoing, especially the most recent ones that were on Monday. Yeah, on Monday, for the parish, at the parish level. You're all welcome. Thank you for participating. It is encouraging to the party that people come up and show up in large multitude.
There are many parties hosting, even at the FDC, she has elections. To be specific,
the most popular one, which is the National Resistance Movement. So I personally also participated, and I was there to witness some of the things that happened. And yeah, I'm welcoming you back from it. Well, you remind me, you told me to talk about the overview.
Just give us a general, a brief.
Okay. So now, to start with, I'll basically mostly talk about the NRM because it is what I have been involved in. Having 30, it is advantageous to the party that in every village, all elections that were conducted at the village level, we already have 30 votes ahead of the campaigns, ahead of the 2026 campaigns. So if you're to look around the villages all over the country, those are about thousands or,
72,000 villages times 30 is 2.1 million.
Yeah, over, already counted votes in for the NRM, which is a plus. So I thank all of you for participating, for the leaders for participating. It is encouraging to the party and to the 2026 elections as we move ahead. In line with the youth, there was an increase in the participation of the youth within the elections, which is also a plus on the party, having people who have just clocked the voting age coming and participating. That is also increasing it increases the votes as per the 2026 elections. However, I noticed that the youth that showed up were mostly as mobilizers, campaigners, and rather than active democratic decision makers or other. So I implore the youth to actually turn up not only as campaigners, not only as the mobilizers, especially as we are looking at the National Youth Council, which is yet to start. About a week from now, we shall be holding the elections for flag bearers for National Youth elections. That is on 19th, that's next Monday. So I implore the youth to actually come and participate, not only as campaigners, not only as mobilizers, but as real decision makers, because we noticed that most of them were coming in, making noise for other candidates. Yeah, whereas I recommend that we have the youth league where the youth are the active members for the league. But when you look at, say, the mainstream league, it was mostly being taken up by the people of age, which I think the youth should not fear, should come up and take up a positions in such big decision-making positions. And also, I want to also comment on the violence that happened, because I know some of my colleagues here will comment about it later. Yeah, it's disappointing, and it mirrors what will happen in the coming elections, the coming 2026 elections. So it is my call to the party, it is my call to the people involved, and to hold mediations, to mitigate and be able to cover those indifferences that were created during the election, such that we have a peaceful 2026 election. And also with the forthcoming sub-county elections, with the forthcoming district elections within the league, it is important that we stop the violence. It is important that we look at ourselves as one. We look at ourselves as a unified party, rather than one that is holding, that shall be framed as a violent party. So we shall keep adding on as we go on. It was just to give you an overview.
I like where you ended from. You don't want to be termed as a violent party.
No,
interesting. General Tsebeni came up to make statements about that. Ivan, as a journalist, you have seen the different political entities. The Democratic Party the other day held its nominations for presidential flag bearers and other structures within the party. Forum for Democratic Change did the same. It has started nominations with expression of interest and nominated people who are going to be voted by the delegates conference. Those are the flag bearer for party president. First of all, I want to pick your overview. I always like we have an assessment, picking it from the 2021 elections, entering into 2026. Is there any difference with the COVID election with what we are experiencing now? Because one thing the Honorable His Excellency Micheal helped me answer is the standard. Is this the standard for a multi-party dispensation, or is a fashion of given Uganda's environment?
Well, thank you very much, Ivan. And to our viewers, once again, I want to say good afternoon. And to colleagues in the studio, I also want to welcome you. I want to thank Center for Electoral Violence
For constitutional
for constitutional
governance.
For always giving us this platform to speak and to air our views, especially to the public that is always following out there. Just from what you've asked, and if I can pick it from my sister here, you find that the election itself is one of the activities that reflect democracy. And that's why it is very important that in every community or every country or every setting, electoral processes need to be very peaceful, very organized, because they hold a central role in our communities, in our lives. I mean, everything in the world, in the country, runs on leadership. And leadership is elected through the elections, the electoral processes, as I have said. But also you will find that if we come back to Uganda, of course, the ground is getting set, and very many parties are gearing up for the 2026 general elections. There are our friends in NUP who are saying a protest vote. Those in FDC, I think FDC, for this case, we should give them some credit. Somehow they are learning from NRM, because unlike NUP, where candidates or where cards are bought, as we hear, you realize that there is some reflection of democracy in FDC, DP, and UPC. I think that one we should give credit. Back to NRM, where I belong, you realize that, of course, we have kept improving each year. We've kept improving, moving from step 1. I don't know where we are now, but
you just go to register after certain 9 years in power.
That's why I'm saying we are taking good steps.
FDC had a register in its first year of power in 2005.
But I think you should also realize that when Honorable Mama Mbabazi was dropped from being the NRM Secretary General, he disappeared with the register, and
but
that's on record.
Honorable OO came out of one of the platforms and said it wasn't a register. It was his file.
Well, that's why I'm telling you that we are taking good steps.
It was his as an individual, but not for the parties. Why he went with it and he has never been held accountable.
No, but he should not have gone with it. At least, because if you are a leader, whatever you do does not begin or stop with you. It is for the public. So I think Honorable Mama Mbabazi would have left that to act as maybe the framework, maybe. But of course, I'm glad that for now, at least my party has developed a register, and as I said, we are taking good steps, because if you look, even in the ongoing primaries, you know, I think it's only NRM that can have structures starting from the village, you know. And you know, the nature of the election that we are talking about, where people line up, and it is like, it's very interesting in the nature, because you look at how people make decisions. You know, I stay with so and so, is my neighbor, but in leadership, I don't trust him. You don't line up on his bag. So I think it is very interesting. We are taking good steps as NRM. And if you look in the most recent elections, I want to tell you that in most villages, especially those that have made effort to reach, you realize that people are satisfied with the candidates they elected. Unlike other institutions where you elect somebody today and they say they rigged, in this it is very hard to rig, because at least you can you're supposed to stand and be counted. So everyone who is there is seeing. There's no way you can do ballot stabbing.
You said there is transparency.
There is a lot of transparency. And I think one thing also that I need to point out is how this, of course, as I told you, NRM is now a yardstick where people copy from.
Since when?
No, NRM is a yardstick, and that's why you see FDC, NUP, Democratic Party. Actually, you don't mention, but Democratic Party is one of the oldest parties. I think it's the oldest in the country. But also, they have been struggling on issues to have the register, also to organize their internal election.
Since 1954, I've never heard that Democratic Party has struggled having...
No, they have struggled. They have struggled.
I think the way the issue is misquoted, they may have struggled on tribal sentiments because they never wanted the Honorable Norbert Mao. But the little history I have with the UID and Democratic Party.
No, but they have issues even on the register. If you go and check, I mean, I cover them. I'm a journalist who has always been at DP. I know what happens there. We see how they try to visit around coming up with the list.
But they had the register.
They had it, yes.
Issues of the register are unavoidable because even in the NRM, there are people like where I saw the Honorable Mbayo in Luka, strong NRDC for thinking she's...
So, as I said, if you look, NRM is a yardstick that is setting an example to other parties. Other parties, soon you'll see them start copying us. You'll see NUP also organize an election and make people to line up, because I think that's the most credible election. But also, if you look, one thing that I should not leave out, I want to, through this media, I want to thank President Tsebeni, because President Tsebeni has actually demonstrated the true principles of NRM. As you know, we depend on, we have principles that we have in place, that like democracy, unity. You know, you saw him in his home village also waiting to line up, and indeed when they came to his name, they had to ask if it was, I don't know if that can be done.
Previously, they used to line up even in the general election.
So here, what was interesting is that they asked him, Museveni no manya. Then he said, yes, I'm here. They even read the number in public, his contact in public. Very interesting. That is only found in NRM, and we should give credit where it is due. So I think in other parties, as I conclude, in other parties I can see also in FDC, they are taking good steps. As I said, they are learning from NRM, and also NUP. I think they should also take steps to see that at least they do not stop at only making noise, but also come out to show us, because they acted for democracy, which they do not practice. Because we don't know where they even elect their flag bearers from. We only sleep today, tomorrow we wake up, they have a candidate. We don't know where it happens. But I'm happy that everything is going on well. Of course, she said in NRM we had cases where there was violence, but I think I will speak about that later as the discussion goes on, because most of the violence was orchestrated by the opposition. They felt idle, and because as others are voting, practicing democracy, these NUP guys and opposition, they all felt idle and they had to find something to do.
For example, Fiona Sechikubo and Anifaka were opposition for fighting.
No, those are rare cases. How many did you see NRM guys fighting? Specifically, they were opposition.
All right, thank you very much. The Honorable Mercy, for the 19 years I've known the political party, that is the Forum Democratic Change, I've known it for having the strongest internal systems on elections, because I've seen times where even people like the General Mugisha Muntu were candidates in the internal process until one time where he left, not because of the election results, but because of the nature of people who are voting, whom he felt don't appreciate his model. I have no need for having very strong internal democratic practices that were benchmarked somewhere in Ghana, at least for purposes of record of interaction I've had. I want you to give us a general ground overview, and also picking from the previous panelists. How do you assess the current environment for the political season ahead of 2021 in regards to party preparations?
Thank you so much, Ivan. Fellow panelists, it's good having such a lovely interaction with you. I'm drawn from the FDC that I subscribe to. I would say FDC is one party that is very democratic. And by democratic, I mean all the powers are given to we, the voters, we the people. We have leaders right from village level as a party. And then looking at the 2026 general election, I believe as a party, we are very prepared. We are having candidates from different levels, MPs, LC1s, whatever level, we are having leaders there. But drawing from what the previous panelists have said, I would want to agree with Honorable Asiimwe. NRM is a very violent party.
I didn't say it's violent.
No, you said there was violence.
There was violence.
Yeah, but it's not violent.
No, I'm drawing from what you had said earlier on. NRM is a very violent party. I'll give an example or a case study of Bukedia, where I come from. We as NRM, there is that picture that you people always want to paint. You want to paint this picture of, yes, we are this, we are that, but in actual sense, you're not practical.
The state / political party? Is it what you're meaning? We want to understand that picture. Because there is you painting a party of the state and also an independent political party.
I'm speaking about NRM in general. Yes, NRM in general. When we talk about democracy, it also comes along with that dignity.
Behaviors.
Yes,
integrity.
We cannot say you are a democratic party, but you're the very people that are rigging votes.
You ring fence positions.
Yes, you cannot, because right now I am a woman member of parliament aspirant for Bukedia district come 2026. But it is very funny how I hear, and I see it in news, I hear there is an NRM candidate who says they are coming unopposed for Bukedia district. So I don't know how that portrays the aspect of democracy. Yes, so I would want, it's a piece of advice to the NRM from FDC. As you talk about democracy, live the democracy that you are talking about. Do not preach democracy on the lips. Okay? We are not throwing tantrums here, but that should be something that we should look into. Then we also, as FDC, there is young people are given the platform. They are given the ability to take up whatever position it is. That is where you'll see that someone will contest for a certain position, have elections done to get the flag bearer. But in the NRM, certain positions are ring-fenced for particular individuals, which I believe is cutting out so many young people from taking up certain positions. Most of the young people are there as whistleblowers for the particular candidates that are there.
She was disappointed when she saw most of her young people as mobilizers. But
yes, that is what we've been leveled to. We, the young people, are being leveled to. We are the ones who move to drinking points to convince the voters to come and vote so and so. We are the ones who fight one another on media. We are the ones who are beating up one another. We are actually the young people. And
don't want offices.
Yes, we literally, it's as if we do not want to take up those positions. So me as a Alupo, my stand is we the young people need to be the actual decision makers, because the challenges we are facing in this democratic in our country right now, these are generational challenges. So which means we need a generational approach to these challenges. Thank you.
Wow.
Like, as simple as just a comment to what you said about, you know, the violence bit, and I think we need
You
to
did
look
condemn
at,
it.
No, I did
You on
condemn
record, you
it,
condemned
but from her point of view, it is more of a party thing, which is not, because the Fountain of Honor came out to condemn it, like, you know. And also, I want to direct it. It exists, but it is because it's the NRM elections are in the broad, that are in the broad daylight. Everyone is watching what is going on. So I want to think that just like in any society, we have people that are violent. It is an issue of character rather than an issue of the party. So let us condemn violence at individual level, not at the party level, because we are having leaders coming out to condemn, NRM leaders coming out to condemn the violence. So it does not mean that it is really articulating or it is a party issue. It is a character issue, an individual issue. And I also stand against it and call upon every other person, irrespective of the party. I believe if the NUP elections were in broad daylight, if FDC elections were in broad daylight, we would also see those issues, because those are issues of character, individual, rather than putting them at a party level.
Okay, maybe. So I want you with from what you've said, we are agreeing that it is the individuals from NRM of Bukedia district, because me, I am drawing it to Bukedia district.
Let us look at individuals, but
yes,
don't
from
try
Bukedia
to put
district
it at a party level. Because even it's like saying, you know, I'm a student in class, I have fought, but then my school is being condemned
I will come back
because of the violence I have done as a student.
I will come back to you to give an evaluation. These parties have reports. Some of us, we are now old enough going to our third level of existence. We have seen these elections really for some time, and these results and reports of evaluation of how the elections were conducted in terms of the violent conduct, transparency, and all likes all over the place.
But maybe, Ivan, something smaller.
I will come back to you. His Excellency, I want to pick from you. Give a general overview, but also whatever you have picked from our panelists here about what does this party process reflect in our realistic democratic environment.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for having me once again. Good afternoon, Ivan. Good afternoon, fellow panelists, and a very good afternoon to our viewers. I want to start from a philosophical bit of it. You see, today's discussion brings us to what we would call an entrenched gero fabric inertia. That is versing an insurgent youth dynamism. Everything that you're seeing right now is only a performivity of inclusion that is masking structural exclusion. What is the realistic bit of it is that we must agree that when we have political parties doing flag bearer elections, then we know that at least there is what I would call a generational hegemonic contestation at the rise, which is of course very applaudable and commendable.
The new versus the old.
But the same is also a confirmatory test that for one to be a flag bearer of a political party, you also must be very humbly at the sidelines of, in politics, it's called the plutonic, the plutonic of those that are in power.
You resemble them by
for you to become a flag bearer. Now, the end result or the results of these flag bearer elections are not even any different from what happens in the general election itself, it is blendable to say, because it starts right away from the internal business of political parties, and it is the utter reflection of the wide picture of the general election itself. But in my own perspective, of course, distancing affiliation from any political party at the time, I have been in NUP sometime, not anymore. I am now at a point where I am keenly interested in the next generation at the expense of the next election. What is important for us to understand is that everything pertaining elections at the time in this country is, one, contrary to common sense, but secondly, also defeats normality. Why do I say so? Is that what would be normal is that in any country or in any political space, the youth prepare to take over. What is happening in Uganda at the time is that the youth are preparing to overtake. They no longer have a choice. But of course, the manifestation of the overtaking at the expense of taking over can be cataclysmic, of course. What makes a lot of sense for me is that while we look at the flag bearer elections and the internal business of political parties as far as elections are concerned, is not even taking up leadership positions. Where the start must be is in redefining, in reviving and reforming, one, the nature, two, the structure, and also the modus operandi of everything that emanates the entire election business. Because I've had here colleagues assert very strongly of the affiliations of NRM and FDC. Of course, certainly you would refer to those as political parties. Now, in my own terminology, so that it even makes better sense, you would choose to call them political wagons. Wagons that...
They are vehicles. No, yes. They are political vehicles in reality. You use them for an election.
Exactly. Wagons that... are perhaps built on colors, on sloganeering, and some built on...
Because each changes a election slogan per election.
Exactly. So it is the sloganeering,
then to
it
building.
Is the coloring, and then some are even built on celebrity panjandram. Of course, yes, it happens. But from a youthful perspective is that the day we wake up as a united force to realize that there is more to life than stage-managed elections that really do not live up to purpose, and then find the energies that are deep-rooted in unison, and then to begin to think critically as one collective mass, I think would be very good to go. Then secondly on that is we've got to identify, while you talk about participation, is from what angle do you participate? If it is a dining table, you are either food, the dining table itself, or you are a chef that cooked and stayed in the kitchen, brought food for people, waiting for them to eat so that you can consume leftovers. What is an election where 65% of a population are mobilizers? You call that active participation? It is not. That is why at the start, as I told you, it is only a performativity of inclusion. But the actual reality that is happening, it is a structure exclusion, that they must bring you to table and make you feel like you're part of the system, and that they are concerned and they care for your perspective of opinion, and that you also must involve. But the results are utterly different. Yeah? The justification is different. The democracy you're talking about, part of the democracy, the colonial democracy that we inherited, is to stage manage democracy itself, and have processes that convince lay people to thinking we are in a democracy, and therefore people are in two elections, but the results and the manner in which these elections are conducted is really to the contrary. What is the youthful perspective? People can belong to whichever political parties they belong, but ultimately, that must not be our subject matter of interest. Because what is happening on the NRM and my brother here just attested that the other political parties are copying from the NRM. Okay, I do not deny that. Whatever they are copying.
No, but they don't line up.
Whatever they are
It
copying.
is only NRM
The
that even
methodology-
UPC doesn't line up.
You see?
It is older.
You
It
see,
started
Ivan,
in 1962.
the methodology might not matter. What we must look at is
The output.
the end result, the output and the outcome. Refer to the English saying there is justifying of the means. The end justifies the means. But as a person that has gone to school, you also must understand that the means must be safe for one to arrive at the end safely. Divide of the same, all we are talking about is normal casual talk, and of course nothing is going to change. The saddest bit of it is that whatever you're seeing happening in internal businesses in political parties is going to be a bigger reflection. The Nigerians have a saying that each time you talk about old bones, the elderly have a tendency to think you're talking about them.
You're being abusive.
Yes. So now the violence has started, and from a home setting, if there is an argument with your brother and he carries a big stick, that means if it was the neighbor, he would be carrying a panga.
Yes.
Welcome to 2026.
Wow. The Honorable here, Asiimwe, part of this country's issues is inclusivity and exclusivity, if it also matters. He points out that issue. We have seen political parties come out to play to the gallery about how big their registers are. The National Unity Platform presents 10 million. Forum for Democratic Change presents 10 million. The Mass Party presents 21 million. Tango, the Honorable Tango, okay, a lecturer, Dr. Tango Doi, on one of the shows said he can be clear to confirm it is around 20 million. And when we go to these general elections, we see that there is still a very low turn-up of the people you like representing so much. That is the women and youth. They are no longer special interest groups, by the way, because they are the majority, but they are still. I can give you a case study of the Kawempe North by-election, where we had 190,000 voters in the Electoral Commission register. Political parties there, including the NRM, had a register of 200,000 voters, but only 17% of the voters participated. That is 40,000. And of the 40,000, 17% voted no. So it means the party was 200K never even made 10% of its registered vote. It actually got 5% of its people in the register. What challenges are causing the youth and women whom you like representing so much to shy away from these elections as we go to the play?
Okay, to start with inclusivity and exclusivity.
I know there are certain margins we have made, which is why we have you here.
Well, of course, when you look at the youth, let me start with the youth. It is an issue of resources, really. You'll find that even when I mentioned earlier that yes, the youth do not participate, some of them, a certain percentage of them, it could be because they are being restricted or limited by resources. Because you find, I think I was discussing with you earlier, and you told me for the position of LC1 in your area, the guy had to put in about 5 million for the election, which over 5 million. I mean, for LC1, a position as
close to certain million.
I don't want to say it's low, but it is at the grassroots 5 million. So tell me, how many of the youth can be able to afford such money to inject into an election? So it comes back to our system that we have set. And this is not even an issue of political parties. It is not an issue of NRM, FDC, or NUP. No, it is just a system that has been set by our leaders that, you know, for you to be able to win an election, you have to have a certain amount of money it is not about the ideas, it's not about your capability, it's about how much you are willing to inject into an election. And you find some people who are capable of going for an MP seat, who are capable of going for maybe a presidential seat or something, they are being limited by, you saw even the political parties themselves, for certain positions, you need to have a certain amount of money to be chosen.
Nomination fee.
I mean, how many of the youth can afford that money? So that is like the biggest hindrance within the youth. The other issue is the issue of mobilization within the youth. Youth are being mobilized as campaigners. Youth are being mobilized as noisemakers, or what they call bakubi baby couple. I mean, now it is us who are coming out, or who are being empowered to know that, no, we should not stop at that. We should not stop at being campaigners or mobilizers. We should come up and be able to take up decision making, sit at the table of decision makers. Now, as the issue of the, I see you trying to stop me. Let me comment about.
Comment as we go to the break, because I was willing to bring you back after the break.
Okay, we
but
can
you can conclude with
I can conclude on the youth, then we can talk about the women later. So with the youth, it is me calling out to them that, you know, we hold the bigger percentage of the voters now, or the people that hold the voice. You have a golden opportunity. You sit on a golden seat to know that your voice matters, that if we come up as one, all these limitations in terms of resources, we can beat it, we can beat them, and be able to have our voices being listened to, and to know that we matter as we move into the elections.
We are going in for a short break, and we shall return with the Youth Roundtable. Thank you very much.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Once again, you're most welcome from the break. Our question of interest after the break, our viewers, is we want to analyze the issues of engagement and participation. And generally, as we went for the break, the Honorable Asiimwe Hilary had really well articulated the dynamics that are excluding youth engagement and participation, especially purposefully. But I want to pick from the Honorable Mercy. The Honorable Mercy aspires to be a woman representative, not only in her district, but across the country's dynamics. Even at the party level, she is very passionate about women issues. The little I know from that side. Where do you think our democratic principles as a country, looking internally at our party levels, but also at the national level, are making women less efficient? Because if we say the not being included in representation, there will be a very big justification that you have a prime minister who is a woman, a vice president, a speaker, the two deputies who are women. But when we come to the electrical, I know our women ratio has increased over time. Rwanda has the highest, I think, in the world, almost at 60. but Uganda has been growing. At least today there is a ratio of maybe 7-3. But still, we want to look at effective engagement. We find that most of these women are maybe in the villages just mobilized, but when they choose to participate even in these elections, they are having issues that are really excluding them. What is your take?
Thank you once again. My take on that, the reason as to why we have very few ladies in leadership is because of so many reasons. Firstly, there is they term it as societal norms and beliefs. In most of our societies where we come from, it is believed
We
that
don't have a female party president in this particular election, I think, in any political party.
For us in FDC, we do not have.
And then NRM, should we expect them to bring us a female presidential candidate?
Maybe they'll be
Maybe
asked to give us.
the process will tell, because if they contest.
No,
And they
let's
manage
look
to
at the
hustle
party
down
structures.
the chairman,
The
President
NRM
Museveni,
recently
it's
had
okay.
done us well with the Secretary General who was female. She's no longer. Okay, you can proceed.
Well, in most of our societies, it's believed that leadership is for men. So
There's a society gap we are still addressing.
Yes, we are still addressing that society gap. So for the few ladies that have gotten exposed, those are the few people that we see are spearheading that to fill up that gap. Another is lack of access to education. By education, I mean most of our people, especially in the rural areas, did not get enough access to education. So you find that even they fail to understand the electoral processes. If the Electoral Commission has issued out the roadmaps, the guidelines, many of our ladies do not find it hard to put that extra effort of getting to know what does this mean, what, like, even when EC goes ahead to translate to the different local languages, still it is a hindrance to most of them. Another thing is family. Most ladies prioritize family compared to being in politics, because we've had so many times people have this stereotyping of ladies in politics are not marriage material, women in politics are this. There's a lot of branding that comes with women in politics. And when we are to look at our rural areas, according to African society and culture, the pride of every woman is family. So you find that the priorities do differ. Then also lack of role models in politics. I would want to appreciate the current government. We have the vice president, we have the speaker, we have so many ladies, Ministry of Gender, we have so many ladies there. So you find that this is it is something that is inspiring to the current ladies, but the before ladies didn't have an inspiration. So if I look up to the vice president, me as Alupo today, and I'm looking at Alupo as a vice president, then I'm inspired to dream bigger, and by dreaming bigger, I am chasing for that. Yes, so way back it was lack of the role models, female role models. I would want to be specific. Then also there are some minor, okay, they are termed as minor, but there are some other hindrances like sexual harassment. You find that I don't want to speak for a particular political party as such, but generally, ladies have that issue, that challenge. In case you're to contest for a certain position, My dear, trust me, even the voters themselves, they'll say that, you know, there's sexual harassment, and sexual harassment can be in form of rape, the bad touches, you know, so even the words themselves. So not every woman is resilient, like has means of coping up with that. So you find that most of them tend to shy away instead. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Wow. I will come to you, the Honorable Ivan. I want we engage more on the role of the fourth estate, where I know you have eyes and legs. As we are in 2025 heading to 2026, from the coverage, from the papers that where you sit, I want you to give an assessment of the trends. Have there been any trends that you see will impact to high engagement in 2026? The challenges that the EC faced previously, do you see any being well reflected as a result of parties preparing better in this particular election that doesn't have COVID? Or should we pre-exempt COVID towards December as we approach January?
I think as a media, we stand in a very critical position because if you look at media currently, we avoid being overtaken by, let's say, events that transpire in elections, because some people would want to utilize media spaces to promote either propaganda or to look for votes.
And but that is what we expect in an election.
No,
you don't come here to look for flowers.
In an election, of course, political parties need to be very independent. We've seen in different countries where, okay, not to political parties, sorry, I mean media, coverage, where media need to be very independent, because we've looked at in some countries where political parties have where media houses or media platforms have caused violence, have orchestrated
in Romania,
violence.
An election was cancelled because of a TikTok video.
Even in Uganda, we were almost sliding into violence. You remember when one of the media platforms mentioned, okay, declared before the official declaration. I don't know whether you remember. Before the EC could declare for them, they already had the tallies and they were almost declaring. And that was very dangerous.
James Madison and Thomas, the third and fourth president of the USA, built a democratic system that said that a media house reporting election results, because we have countries across the world today in this modern era. The election results, because it is the mandate of the EC to give final. But I always find that we need to reach a consensus as a country where if you're a credible media person and you really were given a visibility certificate to cover the election, what is the wrong of you updating that I've witnessed vote counting here and the Honorable Asiimwe has received 500 votes, the Honorable Masawi has got 200, and you display them on your platform. I think that is an act of transparency. Yeah. I think where we're having the challenge maybe is our transparency as individuals.
You see, where the problem comes from is that most of the media houses are owned by some politicians. So I don't want to us to slide. We
are not aware of that.
I don't want us to slide in a situation whereby we shall see a media house, for example, owned by Honorable so-and-so, declare him a winner even before the official tally. So you see, those are the challenges. You see, the media spaces in the West, and they're actually developing on the levels of democracy, like they are almost on the same levels, because they are not like here in Uganda, whereby you find.
So at Vision Group, you're struggling.
No, generally as media, we are struggling. That's the right.
You need to use here as your voice.
Yes, of course, we are not only focusing at Vision Group. We are looking at the media space in Uganda. We are still struggling. Remember that in the past, we've not had enough space as media to practice what we are supposed to practice. But with the coming of the NRM, I think things have now changed, and we are taking good steps in growing. But we cannot expect us to be at the same level with our colleagues in the West. But I think one other thing that I want to also interest ourselves on is the independence of media itself. If you look at media, it is of even starting from just our newsrooms, you find we have people who belong to different political parties, and so you can't expect that person to be neutral, to be as independent. When I write, for example, if I go and write about my political party, I will not give it as that interest as I would give to another opposition. Or I would actually look at, if maybe I'm covering NUP, I may look at NUPAs
with bias.
With bias, that's what I want to communicate. So there is a lot of lack of independence when it comes to media. But also you look at also there are media houses, as I said, that are owned by politicians, but also there are those that are owned by the state. So you can't expect a media house like UBC to speak ill about the president. I think you can relate. You can't expect a media house like Baba to speak about its founder, badly about the founder, you know. It's not. So the media independence, we're still struggling as media. But also one thing that I think, as you said, as we slide into the 2026 general elections, we need to look at the security of the media.
I wanted you to address the issue of violence and safety of the media, because the Uganda Journalists Association has a case with the Human Rights Commission over acts of which transpired in Kawempe.
Yes, because according to, as you've just said,
have you experienced in this party primaries going to Najana Nkumbi or going to cover in Kasenyi? The line of NRM was very long and your camera was grabbed. You went to DP at Balintuma.
I've not of recent had any incidents where media practitioners have been assaulted in the primaries of NRM. But
or another party.
But at least we've seen in Kawempe by-election whereby journalists were beaten. And I think if you look at such scenarios, you say they are very unfortunate, especially when we are trying to advance our democratic spaces. We need not to be seeing such things. Of course, now we are very scared as journalists. That one I can say. We are very scared because we don't know what will happen. At least for me, I'm lucky I will not be covering the elections because I will be looking for votes up in the mountains. But I'm looking at our colleagues who will be covering opposition, NRM. You see, we are operating in very, very risky conditions. And I think this comes back to media houses and also journalists, because if you look at how events unfolded at Kawempe by-elections, you look at some point, yes, we can blame the security who, on personal basis, I think they didn't exhibit that character that they were trained, because if you just jump on a journalist who is just only carrying a camera, just start beating, that's very unfortunate. But also in one way, I also want to, if you look at journalists also, there are those journalists that at sometimes try to provoke the security. But that one I can speak with at least because I've been in the field. No,
you've also ever provoked?
No, I'm saying I've seen them provoke. Witnessed. For example, you cannot, for example, a police officer who is deployed to do what he's supposed to do does not need to be like, there are some privacy you need to accord to him in case he is doing something. Sometimes someone is communicating on phone, you're filming him, you know, such things. I think as journalists also we need to apply our journalistic ethics. We need to see where we need to improve, because if you look as media, as journalists, we learn a lot of things while we are in school. But when we come out here, journalists feel very entitled. Like they think because I belong to such a media house, so I should not be touched. You know, that's wrong. You know, there is a time we saw, for example, there is a time we saw when there is a journalist, I will not mention the name, they should not get scared. There is time we saw a journalist, we were in Nakawa court, they were bringing Dr. Besigye. These guys who were moving with Dr. Besigye, the prison wardens, they were trying to plead with the journalists not to film them because doctor was trying to at least organize himself, was not properly dressed. But the journalists were filming him and taking it upon themselves as if it is their right to film everything. You see, I can tell you this when I look in the camera. Some truths are so dangerous to tell. It's not that every truth should be told. That's what I'm trying to mean. There are some things you will see, and as a journalist, you say, well, I have seen, and you leave. Because, I mean, you will not go around filming everything that you see. For example, that's why I said you should be a journalist who does everything following your principles and ethics. You cannot see, for example, like a lady who was striking, who was demonstrating and went to parliament naked. You run with your camera, you want to film her. You know, there is a way such things do not play out well. So if that person also turns violent and beats you, will you blame?
You wanted to cover her nakedness.
So I think we need to, also journalists, we need to be very prepared and learn how to go around other issues. Because if you know they are very violent, they are not wanting journalists to go there, it's for your safety. There is a statement we usually have as journalists: there is no story that is worth your life. There are some, it's not that you must cover it. It's not. You have to tell the truth, yes, but it's not that it's a must. When you sense danger and you still advancing, you want to reach where they are shooting from, they are firing tear gas from. Sometimes we just need to protect ourselves as journalists.
Thank you very much. That has been the Honorable Tsebeni Ivan giving comments and highlights about the fourth estate in the upcoming elections ahead of 2026. We want to go to the to my extreme left. His Excellency Michael, sorry. We have discussed the youth engagement, that is from the Honorable Hillary. We have discussed women, that is our sister, and we have discussed the fourth estate. But I want to pick your views on the role of security, fairness, just the application of the law or double standard. We saw even in the party primaries of some parties, there was security interferences or people sidelining with certain men in uniform to see that they overpower others, something the president addressed visibly why they came here in their style. Then from giving us your perspective of how security should behave ahead of 2026 and in giving a level playing ground to all participants, not only parties but also the stakeholders, those are the voters who are even independent, some in mind. From that, you also give your lessons from the current party primaries, although some are still ongoing, but what lessons have you observed so far, given time is not in our interest as we come around?
Thank you very much, Ivan. If it is agreeable, I would like to take it on from where my senior brother ended, the question of media. You see, the whole dialect of independence looks more like dependent independence. For many of these guys, we can truly understand their perspective when they begin to tongue twist things and do not say exactly what they can, the justifications of no story is worth your life. But both nationally, continentally, and globally, four perspectives that shape the dynamics of any country, of any continent, and the global stage. 1 is economics, 2, politics, 3, the military, 4 is information. Depending on what kind of information people choose to disseminate to the public, puts them at a position of decision making and choosing whether left, right, front, or to the back. Now with a media that is censored, to choose what they can give the people and what they should keep to themselves is really a very complicated decision. More so in an election like this one, where you're preaching inclusion, where you're talking transparency, where you're talking fairness and equity and all that. What each of us has to bank on is the role of media in an election. What do we expect from them, and what are they giving? Keeping it professional at that. But when we begin to hear statements like, and I think the biggest problem is the politicizing of everything. You politicize the economy, you politicize media, so certain media houses feel they cannot host certain personalities.
The coming of social media has also taken the political reporting, because anybody uncredible these days. Actually, there are more politicians who act like journalists lately than journalists who act like everybody thinks is a journalist.
That is very right.
That's what they call journalism. Everyone with a phone thinks can become a journalist.
You see, even the social media you're talking about has really grown from what used to be the mainstream or traditional media to social media. But I want to tell you, all that has a role to play, because learning is two-sided. You're either learning to or learning not to. So even when we have a particular group of people that we all feel are not journalists, it is best that we listen to them, because trust me, they make a good percentage of this population, and their decisions really affect us.
Influence.
My mother used to say, you even have to take keen interest to understand and pay very detailed attention to what idiots in society think. Because idiots can decide, and their decision oftentimes could perhaps affect what happens in society.
Most cases they're the majority.
Exactly. Away from media, let me chip in the youth and then drive it to security. Fundamentally, the problems that we are having at hand right now is we are into the politics and the elections of patriarchy. That for one to contest and win, you must have a godfather. So it is an outgoing generation that is determining the occurrences of a future they are not going to be part of. And most especially when they do, they are doing it from a point of
financial. From
a point of interest. It could be financial or preservation of wealth or ego, whatever it is. But it is not for the good. Secondly, political tokenization. That the entire politics thing and everything that emanates from the same has been really economized. You meet young people today and clearly they will tell you, for one to win a constituency MP, you must have bankrolled the 500 million. Now, the question is, with what the economic ratings and scaling stand at the time, when does a Ugandan youth have the capacity to have a 500 million to do betting? Because going in an election is betting, you can say it or not. Because you can either win or lose. You understand?
Not finish the election.
So, the onus is really on us. One, to first break a system that is building elective politics on tokenization. Because clearly it is exclusion number one for a youthful population.
We miss a lot of good leaders.
Exactly. Then thirdly is candidate imposition. I have said it and will say it over again. Many of these electoral processes are stage managed.
We are going to have a youth runner against President Museveni for the NRM.
In some political parties.
Will give us updates when nominations come.
You see,
they are going to nominate us a youth against General Museveni.
You see, in some political parties, colleagues may be afraid to say it, but attempting to contest for presidency in those political parties would fairly, party chairman, would fairly tantamount to treason. Because you have had a certain group sloganeering Jaja Tova Kumaini and the others have created a demigod Chibanda Tagambwako. It is a whole complicated situation of ideological dislocation.
You want to overthrow Chibanda.
You just need to be specific. Tell us which parties.
No, yeah,
clearly, you know. So we are at the point of ideological dislocation. So we have got to have things that we believe in as a people united for a purpose, and then live to the same. What is the interplay of security? The 1995 Constitution, Article 1 to 6, vests power in the people and also continues to establish judicial provisions, which judicial provisions are also in operation, conforming to the same, that power is invested in the people, and of course that takes precedence. What happens now is that even the military has now become an active player in politics, which is supposed to be the contrary. When you have a force that clearly takes side and they tell you it is a democracy. Now, what is a democracy? Or an election where people get very badly beaten, where there is no observance or prevalence of fundamental human rights, and security that each one of us either directly or indirectly pays using hard-earned money in form of taxes. So what is called upon for security to do is, one, to maintain an independent role. The security role, basically. But the entire militarization of politics brings things asunder and really complicates the political environment. First, for people, not even the youth alone, but for every citizen to feel like it is okay for them to participate in any democratic process, there must be the guarantee of, one, security, but also you must create an environment that enables people to participate. Where an election begins to look like a war field. For example, the recently concluded Kawempe by-election now has people so much distancing. If you involve in lay engagements to understand what is it that people have in mind according to perspective on what is going to happen in the 2026 election, I anticipate that even the number of people that are engaging, both directly and indirectly, is going to go down. Because the philosophical saying of a mass is controlled by either opportunity or fear. The CDF of the military itself has on several occasions made quite a number of, I would call them, scary statements, even when philosophically the intention is different, because I've delved into the reading of why would someone say that at their level, and you realize it is controlled by instilling fear. Majority of Ugandans are going to distance from this election, because role number one for every individual is you're protecting the right to life and also safeguarding survival to ensure that when the sun rises tomorrow, at least you'll be able to see it. So every Ugandan at this particular time is, I do not want to say is interesting on the military, because they have acted contrary to what their mandate is supposed to be. Then conclusively, we must address issues from, one, a statistical point of view. What have the numbers been over time? 2021 election to this election and even the elections before. Secondly, an evaluation on statistics. Very important to do. It is going to give us a very good sense of direction. Two, we need to have a precedental evaluation of what have the past elections been and what exactly led us to precedents like those. Because trust me, precedents like history are bound to repeat themselves. Then after we look at the potential, we must start to ask ourselves on what exactly do we address ahead of the 2026 elections. Yes, it is just a short time, but I still want to be very optimistic and think that a few things can be put right. Everybody can play a role they're supposed to play to enable stakeholders engage from an independent level, so that probably for the first time, even when it is laughable saying to have a fair and transparent election. Then, of course, the Electoral Commission also has a very big role to play. You see, the biggest challenge, as I conclude, is that the masses have lost confidence and trust in the results of the election. So where you cannot convince people on the results of the election and the media says, okay, we saw 500, but they told us not to release that, they chose 300, it puts all of us at a very complicated spot. Maybe as I conclude, my youthful message would be to
Look to the camera and
encourage everybody to participate. Because certainly what happens is that man is always caged with a responsibility to make decisions. If you're not at the decision table, people are going to make decisions and you're going to be at the receiving end. Knowing that youthfully, we make up a very good percentage and also stand between the past and the future, it is very rightful and mindful for us to take on these leadership positions, as many as we can, to ensure that we are reviving functional systems and then we are reforming functionality. And of course, the rest will fall to line in that order.
Thank you very much. That has been His Excellency Micheal Nkwanga from the UiCt and a member who has been very, very supportive to us as the Youth Roundtable and shared to us as young people his opinions and what is best of thoughts from him as an individual to share with us as members of the Youth Roundtable. We do appreciate you very much for always sparing time to come and join us. For those who always have views, Civic Space YouTube, Civic Space on X, you could always leave comments, leave messages, reshare, repost. We shall always get your feedback. The Honorable Tsebeni Ivan, what lessons did you learn from the party primaries ahead of 2026? And where do you think as a country we should improve if we are to have a better election as we conclude? And also your parting remarks to your people in Namisindwa and maybe all over the world. You may be global journalists. You write a story and it is in States in the next minute.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe just, as my friend, the president of UiCt said, we're not only looking at media being told on what to write, but I was trying to mean that journalists should play their role and not interfere with the role of the EC. For example, it's EC that is supposed to declare results, not media. That's what I was trying to tell you. But of course, the lessons that we pick from the primaries, because so far we've only seen primaries in NRM. I know parties like NUP, FDC are just organizing to have their national delegates conference so that they can also pick out their flag bearers. But at least we can take a look at NRM, because if you look at
Village
NRM,
and parish.
yes, we've already had the village levels and also at parish levels. Yes, we've had violence in some incidences, few actually, but I think it's a good start and we are doing well. I think what we should learn is that it is not the prominence that you have that earns you votes. It's very critical, I think, because if you look at very prominent guys, ministers who have lost at the village level, it communicates a lot. Also, you look at also what I should pick as a young man aspiring to into the political spaces. I think also the way you connect with people matters. You can be a minister, but when you're only in Kampala, you only appear on TV and you think everyone
you lose at the LC1 structure.
So you look at ministers, you go on a village level,
where there are 10 houses in the village.
People asking where you've been living. You have your house there, but they don't know you. You see, so it is very important to connect. Let's be humble. Let's exercise the highest level of humility. Let's be with the people, because if you are elected, you're elected to serve the people. So you should be with them to know their problems. Because if you're an MP, you're representing them. You need to be with them, know what is happening, what they are going through. Because if in any way, if you go to represent them on the floor of parliament, what will you be telling? Maybe what will you be speaking about?
Guys have
You
a
don't
trick,
know.
they keep quiet for 5 years.
And they keep the money. They come and buy us, the youth, who make noise, and at the end we elect lumbens, I can say, because we elect people who actually who cannot even qualify to be a monitor of primary one, but we elect them to be our representatives in the parliament because we have not taken initiative as youth and as community. But I think we should stop being lured into such acts of electing unqualified people. We need to look at the people rather than looking at the money.
Time is not against us. Your specific message.
Now, my specific message to the people of Namisindwa, this is the right person to represent you. And I'm here, a humble son of Namisindwa, request that when that time comes, consider me, because I've been in the community. You know me. I can speak. I can serve you better.
Tell them to watch the youth round table. They know you. Coming to you, Honorable Hillary, in your conclusive statement as an ambassador of you're no longer representing the girl child, unfortunately, of the young women, because you now represent the young women. The girl child when you are in UNSA, but you now represent the young women. Your parting statements as you continue with the structures, but also as we head towards the election cycle.
Okay.
We want to see more of the young women feel empowered, emancipated to have a role in the election, and we want to see them occupy most of these spaces, both at the NRM but also at the national. Not to be escorts or flower girls anymore, but to be like you here and come up and
Okay.
yes.
So, as youth, I'll speak generally to the youth because the girls, the young women all fall under that category. As youth, we are the present, and not only the present, but also the future. So whatever actions that are being portrayed right now, whatever is taking place right now, I'm imploring you to indulge, because the people that we are sending out there to be decision makers are going to act and make decisions that affect all of us, and actually affect us more, because we are heading to the future. So I'm calling upon all of us not only to sit back, but to use that golden chance, the golden opportunity we have ahead of the youth elections that are coming ahead. We have the National Youth Council coming. Come and participate. Come and use it as a chance, as a foundation to hold a seat, as a foundation to go out there and send a message and make decisions, and not for decisions to be made on your behalf. Let us move from being mobilizers or being campaigners to actually being candidates, to taking up those places of decision making. And to my people back in Nakasongola, I love you. To all the youth, I call upon you to not sit back or hold back, but to come out and take up this chance to leadership. Thank you.
Wow, it was a honor having you. To the young people in Nakasongola, you have generously received the message. Once again, it has been the Youth Roundtable. We extend our appreciation to Center for Constitutional Governance, our production team here at Civic Space TV. To our viewers, we always feel a honor when you engage with us and keep engaged for the next shows. For any comments or responses, you could leave a comment via Civic Space at YouTube, Civic Space on Facebook, Civic Space on X. We meet every Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.